This episode of Harvey Brownstone Interviews is brought to you by the Harvey Brownstone Talk Show Blend Coffee, available at hollywoodblends.com. Everyone's saying it's the best coffee they've ever tasted. Why not give it a try and see for yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Harvey Brownstone, and today's special guest is a highly popular and beloved multi-award winning actress and producer who's been immortalized by her unforgettable portrayal of the conniving, scheming Abby Cunningham on the blockbuster TV series Knots Landing, for which she won 3 Soap Opera Digest Awards. But beyond that iconic role, our guest has brought us dozens of memorable performances in a career that has spanned 6 decades. She appeared on Broadway in Woody Allen's hilarious play Don't Drink the Water. On the big screen, she played Clint Eastwood's girlfriend in play Misty For Me, and she's been in many other great movies like The Incident, Murph the Surf, Life Gets in the Way, Joy, Turnover, Origin, and Best Mom, for which she won a Hollywood Reel Independent Film Festival Award for Best Supporting Actress. On television, besides her work on Knots Landing, she played Jane Miller in The Good Life. She was Laura Donnelly in Love is a Many Splendored Thing. She was Victoria Trisk in Hilton Head Island. And she was Madeline Reeves on General Hospital, for which she won an Emmy Award. She's guest starred in numerous classic TV shows, including Gunsmoke, Marcus Welby, Macmillan and Wife, The $6 Million Man, Hawaii Five-0, Melrose Place, Nip Tuck, and NCIS. She starred in many highly acclaimed TV movies and miniseries, including Woman on the Run, He's Not Your Son, Alice in Wonderland, The World's Oldest Living Bridesmaid, In My Daughter's Name, The Stepford Husbands, Deadly Revenge, V.C. Andrews' Dawn, and of course, the 1997 miniseries Knots Landing: Back to the Cul-de-sac. And in 2005, she reunited with her Knots Landing castmates for the highly anticipated TV special Knots Landing Reunion Together Again. And recently, our guest, along with Joan Van Ark and Michelle Lee, launched a brand new podcast called We're Not Done Yet. And if all of that weren't enough, our guest is also a passionate advocate for the environment. She co-founded an organization called ECO, which stands for Earth Communications Office, which has been instrumental in numerous initiatives, including public awareness campaigns, recycling, and energy-saving programs. I'm delighted and honored to welcome the incomparable Donna Mills to our show. Donna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. My goodness, after all that, I worked a lot, didn't I?
I think you did. And you went to high school with Jim Jacobs, who ended up writing the Broadway show and the movie Grease. And he said in an interview that you were the inspiration for the role of Sandy, played by Olivia Newton-John in the movie. Did he tell you that when he wrote the show?
No, I had no idea. I didn't know that until a friend of mine that I'd gone to high school and grade school with did an interview for Lifetime. They did a biography on me, and he did an interview, and he said that in the interview. I had no idea. I didn't know about it until then.
After your performance as Toby in play Misty For Me, you got typecast as a damsel in distress, and you had to play a lot of victims. So how did you ever convince David Jacobs to cast you in the part of a villain on Knots Landing?
Well, I was in my agent's office, and I saw the breakdown of what they were casting. And I saw that part, and I said to my agent, I have to go and read for that. And he said, oh, okay, I'll get you a reading. He called them, they said, we know Donna, she's terrific, we'll consider her. But I knew that they would not really consider me because they'd never seen that side of me, because I've done nothing but, goody two-shoes and victims and stuff like that. So I kept on him. I kept bugging him and saying, please get me a reading. I want a reading. Finally, he bugged them enough. They said, okay, let her come in. She can read. I went in and read, and an hour after I left the reading, they called me and said, you got the role.
Is it true that you had never watched Knots Landing before getting the job?
No, I thought it was a show about a houseboat with Andy Griffith. I'd never watched it. It'd only been on for 1 year before I joined it. And I didn't know anything about it. Then, of course, once I got the role and everything, I went back and watched and saw all the wonderful actors on it and everything. And I was thrilled, but I was most thrilled to have that role.
Oh, you were perfect for the role. So there you were. You joined the cast in season 2. Was it difficult joining a group of people who already had their own rhythm and dynamic on the set? I mean, did they make you feel welcome?
To some extent, yes, but to another extent, no, because David Jacobs told me before started the show, he said, no one's going to sit with you at lunch. He said they're not going to like you very much because he knew that they knew that things were going to revolve around my character a lot. And, I mean, everybody's kind of possessive of their show and their roles in the show and everything like that. So it took a while for me to, kind of make friends with everybody.
Well, I've heard you say, Donna, in interviews that playing the character of Abby on Knots Landing for so long actually helped you become more confident and gutsy in your own life. How did the people closest to you react to the more confident Donna?
Well, everyone seemed to like it pretty much, but it's true. I got a lot from Abby. I got a lot of kind of the ambition and all that she had. It must have been in me somewhere, so I brought it forth for her. But because I had to bring it forth for her, it came out for me too. And it's one of the reasons I loved playing the character so much. It was strengthening for me.
Well, I'm sure you know that the Biography Channel put Abby on its list of the top 10 TV villains we love to hate. But for you, Donna, playing that character, was it important for you as an actress to actually like Abby?
Yeah, yeah. Because when you play a character, the character doesn't generally think that they're doing anything wrong. If it's just the way they are. So yes, I needed to come through her in order to play those kinds of things that she was doing.
Well, for me, the key thing about Abby is that her primary motivation was always money, not love. And I think the character resonated so well with the public because many people have probably had an Abby in their lives, don't you think?
Yes, but she did love. That was the thing that I loved about the character. You never saw her vulnerability. The other characters didn't see her vulnerability. But if she was alone in a room, she'd cry, or she was always, her children came first and foremost. And that was something that made her, for me, not a caricature, but a real person. She cared about her children. She got hurt sometimes, but she never let anybody see it. That was the fun part of it. But as playing the character, I'd go into a room alone and you would be able to see how something had affected her and that she was hurt or she was mad or she was whatever, but never in front of other people.
When you play the same character for a long time, does it ever become a challenge to try and keep that character fresh and interesting, or do you just rely on the writers to do that for you?
You pretty much rely on the writers, and it's actually one of the reasons I left when I did. Everybody said, "Well, it's so successful, everything's going so well. Why do you want to leave?" And it was like I just didn't think the writers at that time. We had a series of different writers, and and some of the writers that we had, particularly in the very beginning of the character, I thought were fabulous. I mean, I couldn't wait to read the scripts. And then because, 8, 9 years of creating this character for the writers, it got to be, oh God, what are we going to do with her next? And I felt like they'd kind of run out. And I didn't want to see the character go downhill. And so that's why I left. I said, I want to go out with Abby at the top. when she's, at her best. I don't want to see her go downhill. So that was why I left the show, because it all hinged on the writing.
Well, I remember when you left Knots Landing after season 10, you said this in an interview. I'm tired of the show. It's been too long. I'm not particularly happy with the way they've been writing Abby lately. She's too soft. I'd like Abby to get back to her old self. So I guess it's fair to say, Donna, even though you were tired of the show, would you have stayed if the writing for your character had been better?
Yes, I would have. If I had felt that, either they were getting new writers or they had some wonderful ideas, I would have stayed, but I didn't. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about anything except I loved that character and I didn't want her to kind of fritter away.
When we had Joan Van Ark on the show, she talked about the close friendship between herself, you, and Michelle Lee for so many years. I know you got to work with Joan again on an episode of Nip Tuck. And now the three of you have a brand new podcast called We're Not Done Yet. Are you having fun with the podcast?
We are, it's a hoot. It really is. And we have remained friends all these years, but the two of them are crazy. I'm the same one. And I guess because of that, we're funny together. We just are. We've always been. And people, when we've done interviews together and stuff like that, people are always going, "Oh my God, you guys are so funny." So it's been really fun to do. Not easy because, corralling everybody's schedules and this and that and another thing, but it's good. And it's good. Yeah, it's good to look forward to seeing them. Although we have lunch and we see each other. Michelle doesn't live very far from me, so I see her fairly often. So it's nice. It's nice. They're good girlfriends.
It's a great podcast. All three of you are wonderful people. If there ever were a reboot of Knots Landing, what do you think Abby would be doing at this point in her life? Have you ever thought of it?
Oh, yeah.
You have?
Oh, yeah, because for all these years, fans have been asking, how come we can't get, a reboot? Why don't you reboot? Dallas rebooted. Blah, blah, blah. So, yes, I've thought about it often. And I think it would be really interesting if you come back and Abby is homeless. Went awry in her business world. They can figure that out. And she's down and out. And what you would be able to see then is her clawing her way back up. And I think that would be fun because I think people think that Abby would be able to do that. And
have you ever pitched that idea? It's a great concept.
Nobody's asked me.
That's showbiz. That is show business.
Yeah.
But of all the villains you've played, I think the most evil was the grandmother, Lillian, on Dawn. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, she absolutely was. She was, because like I said, Abby had her good traits and she was very human. She loved her children, but Lillian, Lillian was hard as nails and just mean. See, there's a book also, that's from a series of books, and there's a book on Lillian and why Lillian is the way she is. And so I had suggested to them, do that book, go back and see why she's the way she is, because she's a really interesting character, but to find out why she, is so mean and cruel, and it would be interesting.
Well, they did that with Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So there is a precedent for doing that. That's exactly what they should do.
Yeah. Nobody listens to me, though.
I'm listening. We're going to have to pitch this. Now, Donna, I'm sure you're well aware, you've been told a million times, you're one of the most beautiful women in the world. I think we all know what the advantages are of being beautiful, but I want to ask you, is there a negative aspect to being beautiful in Hollywood? You didn't find one?
No,
That's so interesting because when Morgan Fairchild was on the show, she said that if you're beautiful and especially if you're blonde, it's hard to be taken seriously as an actress. You didn't find that?
no, not really. There were always parts for pretty blondes. There always will be parts for pretty blondes. And I think, it gets you in the door all the time. When I was starting out as a dancer, you know, I walk into an audition and I had to step up, even if I wasn't the best dancer, because I was kind of pretty. And so, the other girls would know that, and they wouldn't tell me where the dressing room was and stuff like that. But no, I mean, I would never think of it as not an asset. I don't think of myself as pretty all the time, but whatever that is and whatever people see, it's an advantage.
And did you feel taken seriously as an actress when you
Yeah,
were starting out? I mean, now obviously you are, and you have been for many years, but when you were starting out, you weren't just, you didn't feel objectified?
no, no, not really, because I got some good roles. I got the role on Love is a Many Splendid Thing. That was a very deep role. So yeah, I ended up getting a lot of things that, were fun to play. The one thing as time went along that I didn't like was that they were all victims. We usually, if the woman in the show isn't the villain, she's the victim. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that, what that was saying to women out there, what that was saying to my audience. Like, that's what you have in store for you. That's all there is. And I said, no, that's not. That's why I fought so hard to get Abby.
Believe me, you made up for the victim era.
Good.
And not just that you got very meaty roles, you got to work with some legendary stars. I'm going to ask you about a few of them. I want to start with Walter Pidgeon. You worked with him in Live Again, Die Again. What was he like to work with?
Wow. I don't even remember that. It's really funny because people are asking us about things on Knots Landing too, and I go, I have to go back and watch the whole thing on Amazon now because people remember scenes more than we do. I mean, kind of you do so many things and then they all kind of jumble in your brain. So,
Well, you know what the thing is that when I did my research, I was struck by the legends you've worked with. And I mentioned Walter Pidgeon. You worked with Fred McMurray and Beyond the Bermuda Triangle. Did you
right.
get to know him at all?
I did. He was a very sweet man, very, very sweet. I don't have vivid memories of that particular movie, but I do remember that he was really nice, nice person. I mean, boy, you can ask me about each one individually, but I can't think of anybody off the top of my head who was awful.
Well, one
That's
that
what
I
we're.
just loved, I absolutely loved her, was Patty Duke. And if I'm not mistaken, you worked with her at least 4 times. Curse of the Black Widow, Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby, Fire, Hanging by a Thread. I think I've got them right.
Was she in Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Wow, you know these things better than I do.
But
Yeah.
she must have been great to work with. She was such a good actress.
Yes, she was wonderful actress, sweet person. Yeah, I liked working with her a lot. And I do remember, and Curse of the Black Widow, that was the silliest movie. I mean, and but we just laughed our way through it. I mean, we had a great time.
In 1979, you co-starred with Joe Namath on stage in Picnic, and I don't think his acting was anywhere near as good as his football playing. Was he fun to work with?
He was, and he wasn't bad, you know. I mean, you think, oh my God, but he was pretty good. It wasn't like you were on stage with somebody who didn't know what they were doing, you know. He felt, you know, solid in what I don't think he would have done it had he not had the confidence to do that. So yeah, he was pretty good and really, really sweet guy. Yeah, I see him all the time now on the hearing aid commercials, and you know, I haven't seen him in years, but I liked him a lot.
And then you worked with George Hamilton in Very Cool Christmas. You played Mrs. Santa Claus. Was that fun?
Mrs. Claus, yes. That was like a bizarre kind of job. You know, you want to play Mrs. Claus? Okay. You know, but it was fun, and he's very nice. I actually run into him because Alana Stewart is a friend, and she does a big Farrah Fawcett Foundation gala in Dallas that I've been to a couple of times, and he's always there. And he's a hoot. He's a funny guy.
And what about Florence Henderson? You worked with her in Ladies of the House.
I just thought of her the other day. I don't know why I came across a picture or something. I loved her. I loved her, and my daughter loved her, and she loved my daughter. As a matter of fact, I don't remember which birthday it was, but I gave a birthday party for my daughter that was a fashion show and a fashion competition, where a model thing, all the girls modeled. We built a runway in the yard, and they all went to Forever 21 and bought dresses, and I gave them money to do all that. And then some of the girls were makeup artists, some were hairdressers, and we did this thing. And Florence was one of the judges. She came and was one of the judges for us, which was really, really sweet.
What a big heart she had.
Oh, she was lovely.
I want to mention a 1991 TV movie you starred in and executive produced called Runaway Father, co-starring Jack Scalia, which was about a mother of 3 children trying to get the father to pay child support. Now, I'm sure you don't know this about me, Donna, but I spent 26 years as a family court judge. And before that, I was the director of the Government Child Support Enforcement Agency. So I always wanted to tell you that movie resonated with me very much.
Well, for heaven's sake, well, congratulations to you for doing that. I mean, that was wonderful. And that was a true story.
And it was the first film to bring national awareness of the problem of deadbeat dads who don't support their kids. So thank you on behalf of all of us who worked very hard to sensitize the public about the need to support your children. Thank you for making that movie.
Oh, well, that was, I think, the first movie that I produced. And it took me like 5 years to get it done, you know, from trying to pitch it to different networks, to, you know, getting the script written, you know, the whole thing. It took some doing, but I was very pleased with the outcome. And I really felt the subject was important. So thank you for saying that.
Well, in 1994, you starred in and executive produced another really important movie called My Name is Kate, about alcoholism. You play an alcoholic whose family finally gets her to go to rehab. How did you prepare for that role?
I have people in my family who are alcoholics, and kind of, you know, the memories of that. My grandfather was an alcoholic. And so I could, by the way, do you remember who played my son in that movie?
No, who was the actor?
Oh, see, you seem to know everything, but you don't know this one.
I don't remember.
Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, right. Wow, that's so cool. Well, you just have a knack for making these movies with social justice themes. The next year, 95, you made another really important movie about domestic violence called Dangerous Intentions.
Yeah.
I think you should be really proud that you've been a part of so many movies that make the public aware of important social justice themes.
Well, when I was producing, you know, and I had not because I was such a great producer, but because they wanted me to be in the movie, you know, I got to produce things. And I really felt like I have a platform here. Let's make it important. Let's make it about important things. And that's why I looked for those kinds of, issues. And it was very gratifying to, I mean, like the alcoholic movie, people would write me and saying, you really helped me, I saw you do that, and I went to AA, just a lot of stuff like that really made it worthwhile for me.
It makes those movies stand out. In the mid 90s, when you were in your 50s, you adopted your beautiful daughter, Chloe, and you significantly reduced your acting career for about 18 years until Chloe went off to college. When you resumed your career, Donna, was it difficult getting all those new young casting directors to even know who you were?
Yep.
It was hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit different now. It's a little bit better now, but they're not interested in the older people. They're interested in, there's always the 20 somethings, that there's lots of roles for those people, but there's not roles for the older people. And they don't, not until recently. I mean, have they been doing movies about older people or series about older people? So yes, it was hard. And it's funny because when I first started to go back, I just, started to look around for stuff, and I ended up doing a number of independent movies, very low budget independent movies, which was difficult in a lot of ways because I was used to like the top tier television, treatment and, nice dressing rooms, uh, and, these kind of movies, they didn't have that. They didn't have the budgets for that. So it was a whole different kettle of fish. But the wonderful thing about it was the people making those independent movies were so passionate and so committed to what they were doing. It was really inspiring to see. And even though the circumstances on the set weren't always, great, I always admired their stick-to-itiveness and the way they had a passion about this.
And look what you did for them. You gave them the opportunity to have a big name star starring in one of their projects, which gave them an open door. It's a very generous thing you did. And of course, okay, it was hard going back, but raising Chloe must have been the most important and happiest thing you've ever done.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know if you know, but she just had a baby.
Congratulations. I didn't know. Oh, please give her my best wishes.
Yeah.
In 2015, you won an Emmy Award for your performance as Madeline Reeves on General Hospital, but you said in an interview after getting the Emmy that you didn't think you did your best work on that show. Is that because there's no time to rehearse on a soap opera?
Yeah. I'm the kind of actor who likes to rehearse. I would be the first one on the set, to go through it with the other actor and actors and the director and, let's do it this way, let's do it that, So I loved that process. And that process is, for me, it turned out the performance. In the soap operas, particularly these days, not when I did it, years ago when I did Love Is Many Splendid Thing. When I did Love Is Many Splendid Thing, we came in the day before, went into a rehearsal room with the director, the other actors, worked it. I mean, we worked for hours on staging it and doing it and working and talking and stuff like that. And then we'd shoot it the next day. Nowadays, they do 2 shows at least a day, and there is no time. There's no rehearsal whatsoever. You go up, you put it in front of the cameras, and that's it. If you can find your scene partner somewhere down in the dressing rooms and run the lines a couple of times, you're lucky. Otherwise, it's the first time you're doing it is in front of the cameras.
But having said that, winning an Emmy Award for your performance must have conveyed to you that even under those brutal conditions, you delivered. You can do it.
I guess so. I guess so. I kind of always felt that it was kind of a throwback to Knots, to, well, we didn't give you anything for Knots, and you really did good in that role. So we'll give you an Emmy now, and it's for that one too.
I think you're giving them way too much credit for being way more generous than they are. That's my opinion. I think you earned it.
Oh, thank you.
And then in 2015, you starred in a reality series called Queens of Drama, along with a bunch of other stars working together to produce a TV series. I know it's called a reality show, but how realistic was it?
Well, that particular show, I mean, it wasn't, it wasn't scripted. There was no script. It was all kind of improvisation. But because we were all actresses, we knew how to work it. You know what I mean? If people are not actresses, they're just people. I think tempers flare and, all these kind of things happen, which is what makes it intriguing, I guess. That's what the public wants to see. When they first came to me and said, there's this reality show that we want you to do, I said, no, 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 no. I don't want to do a reality show. Blah. And then they told me what it was about. And I thought, well, that's interesting because we're trying to do something. We're not just like, sitting around at lunch and with martinis and, being mean to each other. So we had a goal. We had something we were trying to do. And that, I liked that. I liked that. And it was a fun experience. I was really sorry that it didn't go a little further. I mean, another season or two, because I thought it was an interesting premise.
Yeah, it was an interesting concept. Now, you co-starred in a wonderful TV movie called Ladies of the 80s, A Diva's Christmas. That's a very special movie to our show because we've had Lonnie Anderson, Linda Gray, Morgan Fairchild, Christopher Atkins, Patrika Darbo, and now you on our show. We also had Stan Zimmerman, who co-wrote the script. Did you have a lot of fun working on that show?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're back with the girls, it was fun. And I had worked with Morgan a number of times. She and I did Bob Hope specials together. I don't know if you ever.
I remember
when we did a skit about Dynasty, where I played Joan Collins and she played Linda Evans.
I can't remember what Bob Hope did in that skit.
He was the guy on Dynasty.
Oh, he was John Forsythe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember. Well, Morgan Fairchild, like you, is one of the most committed people in Hollywood to work for the environment and to work for causes that really make a difference to the planet. Your organization, the Earth Communications Office, got the movie industry to incorporate environmental messages into their content. You got public service announcements into movie theaters, and you were instrumental in starting recycling and energy saving programs at the movie studios. So I'm so glad I get to tell you publicly, thank you, Donna, so much for everything you're doing for the environment.
Well, I wish I could do more. I mean, it's so much damage has already been done that now we're kind of like trying to shore it up. But, it's my passion. It's what I, feel is so important these days. And, if I could be a little part of helping, I'm happy to do it.
Do you feel at this stage of your life that you're a role model? You were a single mother, you had a career, you also took the time to raise a child the way you wanted to do it. You got back into the business. You've played a variety of roles. You've had great success. You've managed to maintain incredible beauty. I mean, Donna, you are breathtakingly beautiful. You always were. Do you feel like a role model?
I don't think you think about that. I mean, as I go along day to day, I don't think about that, but people tell me that. And It's very gratifying. As an actress, sometimes you don't feel like you've contributed a lot, but when people tell me that, I've been a role model to them, they've aspired to be like me or something like that, it makes me feel very gratified and very humble and very happy. It makes my life worthwhile.
Well, I'm so glad that I got to celebrate that with you, because it's not just the way you've lived your life, but it's the movies I mentioned that I think really made a big difference in terms of public awareness of very important issues. I have to tell you, Miss Donna Mills, it's been such a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for all the great performances you've given us over the years. And most of all, thank you so much for taking the time to appear on our show.
It's my pleasure. So nice to see you.
Thank you so much. You are welcome back anytime. Our guest has been the fabulous Donna Mills. For more information about Miss Mills, please visit her official website, donnamills.com. Don't forget to tune into the brand new podcast, We're Not Done Yet, starring Donna Mills, Joan Van Ark, and Michelle Lee, which is available on every major streaming platform. My name is Harvey Brownstone. Thank you all for joining us. See you next time. Thank you to my producers, Steve Silver, my managers, Rick Marcelli and Robin Bragg Marcelli of the Marcelli Company in Hollywood, my director of programming, Robert Monaghan, my editor, Isaiah Sheralampidis, and my entire team at the XPTV1 network in the UK.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out all the great interviews on the Harvey Brownstone Interviews YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when new videos are posted.